Hello, everyone. I hope you had a great week. I am making this video specifically pertaining to the case study project work that you're going to be doing in this course. It is a big part, is one of the major assignments in addition to our inclusive practices field work. I have already uploaded a video, so if you haven't watched that, please go watch that. So, this case study project is going to be where you will pick a case study child. And you will see here to get to the case study, there's two things that I want to note. The first thing is I'm going to show you how to get to the case study children so you can choose which child you would like to work with this semester. The second is I'm going to show you when we begin the case study work. So if you go into our course and click on course information and content on the table of contents on the left side, underneath module 2, you'll see what's called case study. Okay, so that is where you're going to find all the case studies. So keep in mind, once you read through all of the case studies, I want you to pick which one that you would like to choose as your child. I know that there will be some repetitiveness, meaning that we will have some duplicates where we have more than six people in this class. So obviously, we'll have to have some people pick Clayton, some will choose Tiffany. Um, but I obviously don't want to have the whole class choosing one, like Joey or Lily. I want everyone to kind of spread out. So to do that, I thought it would be nice if we set up um, on the course homepage, I'm going to set up a table and I'll show you kind of what it looks like. I put an example here so you could see. So on the course homepage is obviously where you will first log in. So what it will look like is you will read through the case study children and you will pick which child. So remember, when you pick the child, you'll choose that child for the entire semester. So here's an example. Once you email me which child you would like to choose for the case study, I'm going to put the child's your choice here and which student chose that, just so we can all be aware that we're all not choosing Tiffany or all not choosing Lily or Joey. So give you a good indication of who's already chose which person. Obviously, you will have more than one duplicate because we have a larger class and there's more than six students in this course, but you can get an example of what it's going to look like. And that will stay on the course homepage at the top. That way you can always look in it. Please do not type in this table. That table is just for a reference for you and the whole class so we can see in case you forget who you have, you can just always go to the course homepage and look at the table. I will make the choice and type in for you, so don't worry about that. So once you've looked through and you've read through all the case study children and you chose which case study child that you want for the entire project, what we're going to do next is we are going to go down into module 3. Okay. Module 3 is what we're doing next time. So when you scroll all the way down, that's where we actually start the casework. Okay, so I'm going to go over the assignment. So what I thought I would do, since you're going to be doing some sort of project work every module, I thought I would do a video every time we have a new module come open. That way you won't get overwhelmed and this video won't be super long or extended past the minutes we need to watch a video. So we'll just do one each time that we have case study project work. So for this first video, we're specifically looking only at the first case study project work that you're going to be doing in module 3. So with this, you are going to read through, like I said, of your choice of the case study work child. Again, you can get it under table of contents. It's under module 2. So let's say, for instance, that we decided we wanted to do Clayton. So once you read about Clayton, you're going to look specifically at obviously his age, what's his disability, um, what is his demographic with his family, what is his home life like. We're going to look at everything we need to know about him. So, one thing to note with these project work, these children are going to be doing what we call transitioning to a different program, right? So that means that there's a receiving school which is the school that's going to receive the child, and then there's the school that the child was at previously, the sending school. So we're pretending that this child's coming into your school. You're the receiving team. So what you're going to be doing is having to learn what's the best way we can transition him to a new program. So that's going to be the overall theme of this project work. But for this first section, you're really going to be looking specifically at the disability. With that being said, the first assignment is for you to create a PowerPoint presentation about the specific disability that this child has. So here's what you have to do. You're going to use PowerPoint to create this presentation. You're going to be looking at the condition or the disability that the child has. So in this case, if we chose Clayton, we would be looking at Clayton's disability. So we know he has Down syndrome, but he also has an additional health concern, which is a congenital heart anomaly, excuse me. And we have to make sure that we look at everything that is limiting him or his needs that he would have. So you're going to have to essentially do some research. Now, there is a librarian embedded into our course, so obviously you're going to be reaching out to her if you have any questions about research, about how to cite sources, because since this is a research portion of this project, you're really going to have to make sure that you're citing all of your sources, where you got it from, and that will be listed in your PowerPoint presentation at the end. But if you're not familiar with research or how to find valuable sources or if they're credible, that's something that I would like you to obviously work with the librarian. So I will show you just a minute how to find her. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a PowerPoint presentation after you do your research, right? So you can gather as many research sources as you want. I'm not putting a limit on it, but we'll get down to the requirements in just a minute. So, what you're going to do is the purpose for this project is really for you to be able to be informed about that child's condition. Because, as a teacher, when you are in an inclusive classroom and you're getting children who have special needs, it's important for you to understand their condition, their needs, their special needs, and the disability. And how is this really going to impact the child in an educational setting? So, with that being said, it's important for you as the receiving team, you need to make sure you get the child set up in the classroom, right? And you want to make plans for that child. How can we get a good understanding of this disability, how this is going to impact the child, not only in the classroom, but with peers and others? So, there's really important specific information I want you to include in this presentation. So, I put here where should what you should be including in it. So the first obviously is define the condition. That's number one. What's the disability? And what I want you to be sure of is that you're looking under the Tennessee State Department of Education underneath special education eligibility. And this is going to give you a list of eligible eligibility disabilities. And what does that mean in the classroom? What specifically do they define that disability as? I also want you to research and include about assessment. How is it determined that that child qualifies under this disability? Again, you're going to find a lot of that stuff under Tennessee State Department. You could also find it in other places, but that's the main source where you'll find a lot of that. You also need to look when you're researching about what's the cause or prevalence of the disability. So, is it genetic? Or what causes this child to get this disability? Then you're going to also include the showing us information about the characteristics of the disability, right? So when we're talking about the characteristics, we want you to look at from the lifespan, all the way from infancy, all the way up to adulthood. But also really make sure you're focusing on the age that the child is right now. Okay. And then we also are looking at any educational consideration inside of an early childhood environment. So these might include like what are some instructional methods or strategies? These would be modifications or accommodations. Again, focus on the case study of that specific child's disability. What are some environmental adaptations? So these would be any kind of physical changes or schedule changes, as well as any access needs that need to be considered inside the classroom or this early childhood setting. Also, looking at social supports. What can be done to support this child's ability to be part of this group, this classroom? Are there things that can be done for you to encourage that child and so they can be accepted into the group by their peers? You also need to look at how you can support the family. What are some resources or support groups for that family? Also, I want you to look that I put that there are a minimum of 4 resources that you need to find. You can have more than that, but there needs to be at least 4 because that would be relevant to how many things you're going to be including in the presentation. Now, one thing I wanted to inform you of is that we are going to be using what we call APA style. When you're citing your sources, there's a video here for you that goes through that will help you with APA style. Also, there are some formats to consider when you are putting together this presentation. Obviously, the first slide needs to have the title of your presentation. Um, since you're doing this alone, I mean, if this was an in person class, we do groups, but since we're alone, we're obviously not going to do groups. Make sure the font is eligible, it's accessible, make sure that it's readable, and the colors are not distracting. So, again, we're looking at accessibility. And you need to have at least 4 slides that include some images, right? And one of them I want to be a graph or a chart. Okay, so this can be considering, when you talk about prevalency or lifespan, these images need to be appropriate to the context or the content within your presentation. Also, we want to make sure it's very well organized. How can you organize it? Well, you can kind of start looking at here with the information as it kind of flows, right? When we're starting to learn about a disability, these are the ways that we would take this information in. So that would be a good way to organize your information in this presentation. Also, think about headings and bullets and how you section those off in your presentation. That this presentation is really just flowing nicely. And of course, we're looking at grammars, capitalization, punctuation, spelling, those sort of things that would be looked at when you're putting a presentation together. Also, you do need to make sure that you're including your citation page at the end of the presentation, right? Some students like to include it within the presentation, which is fine too, but I do need a page that has all your sources, so citing those sources. I have included a case study rubric, and this rubric is really going to help you look at how you're going to be graded, right? So, this first section of the project is going to be worth 25 points. Obviously, you're going to have more than one part to do to this project, but this is the first project that you're doing with this whole case study. So, this one's worth 25 points. It breaks down how you're going to be graded. It's looking at specific standards and key competencies that will be covered using um, the NAEYC standards and how they're related, and you'll look at how I'm going to be grading you, right? So I'm also looking at all of these things up here that we talked about, the requirements, that those are included as well. So remember, just like I explained when we were talking about the field work, in order to get exceeds expectations, you have to do all of this, right? To get that. So just keep that in mind that you may want to make sure when you're using this rubric as a checklist that you look at both these things as being included. I always tell students it's a good idea to look at the rubric before you start and then look at the rubric after, right? And use it as a checklist. And same goes for the assignment to read through it again once you're complete, just to make sure that you've covered all the bases and all of the requirements and guidelines are clear and that it's included within your project. So that's pretty much your first project work that you're going to be doing with the case study. Like I said, this week I really want you, because we're still working in our first module of work. So you have time. But by the end of this week, I really want you to be able to nail down your case study child and email it to me, and then I will put it on the chart on the course homepage. All right. So, as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm here to help you. I want you to understand that this project really is going to help you learn how to receive children from other programs when they're transitioning. That's the whole point of this whole case study project work that you will be doing this semester, but this is the first part because it's important for you to understand the child's needs and that child's disability. The child is not, the disability is not the child, right? The disability is just something that the child has to do if it has a need. Um, and how can we support them? If we don't understand the disability, how can we support that child when we receive them? So that's the first part or component of this project work. All right, so like I said, please reach out if you have any questions, and I'll be more than happy to support you. I hope that you have a great rest of your week. Until next time, guys, take care.